and I had the produce box. So I put all of that in there, and where I live, there's the condominiums are all older people, even older than me. Not as quite as old as JR, but I'm sorry. I had to throw that one in. I love you. So it was really quite interesting. So going up to the doors, some of them, I don't know if they were home or dead or asleep. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Well, that would be resurrection, right? But so I got to talk and pray for 3 people that I didn't even know because it was further down the road. And my little puppy, I'm trying to get to the details, I know. She'll push people away when she doesn't want them, and that's such a great tool. Because everybody loves her. So I'm saying that she's praying for people now. That's what she's doing. She's not pushing them away. Yes, yep, laying paws on them. What was that? Yes. That just captured them. And then, what can I pray for? And, some of them, just the health and wanting to be able to do more. They're so fearful. And so it's not like I had any booming miracles, but the seeds that were sown. So I figure if I don't have anybody next week, or if I do, I'm just going to keep sowing in those seeds. So, and they were precious. So,
good job. So if anyone was here, whoever was here last week, got to hear kind of what we did overall. And last week, there was a guy that I talked to on the street, and he had something going on with his stomach. And last week I heard that he had either like a prostate thing or a urinary tract like problem, because he had a catheter and stuff, but he didn't know because he hadn't gone to the doctor yet, so he didn't know what the problem was exactly. And then I was like, hey man, I want to pray for you and you're going to get healed. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then he just talked to me a lot about just weird doctrine about God and everything. I was like, all right, I don't care about that. I'm just going to come back next week and you'll be healed. And then he was like, all right, sure, do that. So this week we actually went back to the same spot, the Denver Rescue Mission, and we ended up getting him to come outside, and we ended up talking to him. And he walked outside, all smug, and he's like, I'm still sick. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gone next week, but I'm going to come back in 2 weeks, and you'll be healed then. And honestly, I don't know where this is going to go, but I really just feel the Lord like I'm going back there until he's healed, because he's so adamant right now in his heart that can't happen and that won't happen. So I just know that just means the Lord has to do it, because, yeah. So that happened, and really the rest of the day, we prayed over a few other people, but there wasn't any crazy other testimony, so I'll just hand it off to them. Well, yeah. So I also talked to another guy up on 24th Street that was a little bit higher up, and I went by myself to go talk to this guy because I was looking for the guy I was supposed to go to lunch with, and he wasn't there, so I didn't go to lunch with him, and he never texted me back, but that's all right. So that's still ongoing as well. But then I ended up talking and praying with a guy, but he kept asking for money. And then we were talking in this one spot, and he kept reaching around his pockets and stuff, asking for money. And it was fine until he asked me, he was like, hey, can we walk over here? And he was sort of leading me towards his tent that were 4 or 5 other guys were there. And as we were walking, I was still explaining, talking about Jesus with him. But then I stopped talking, and he didn't have any questions. He didn't have any comments. And the Lord was just like, all right, you don't have to follow him anymore. Because it kind of seemed a little bit like he was fumbling with his pockets, and all he did was ask for money. So I was like, I don't know. He might be trying to do something a little bit sketchy here. So then I ended up just being like, all right, man, I'm going to leave now. And he was like, okay. And then I walked away. So, yeah, that also happened.
So, like Zach said, we didn't really have any crazy testimonies. We just got to pray for a few people. But the thing that the Lord was showing me today, though, was how I'm going to be building relationships with these people, because two groups that we ran into were people that we saw previously, one a few months ago and then one last week. And the one last week, we talked to 4 guys. There's one guy, Eric. He has the bluest eyes I've ever seen in my entire life. They're so stark. So every time I see him, I'm like, it's Blue-Eyed Eric. And he's like, hey. And then I talked to a few other guys. There was one guy, like the Lord has just given him such a brain. Like, he has a YouTube channel, and he's making a battery so he can charge his bike, and he just explained all of this stuff. I was like, wow, okay. So I'm building relationship with them, and at first we're like, hey, like, here's a blessing bag, and they're like, are you with the Catholic Church? And it was kind of like standoffish. But after having a full conversation with him, he was like, I'll see you guys hopefully soon, and like was really excited to see us. So I'm just believing that that's the relationship that will open that opportunity.
I was going to say, the guy that you're praying for healing, that you're going to come back in 2 weeks, is he a follower? Is he a believer of Jesus? He's the opposite. Just doesn't like God. So I believe, even more importantly than the healing, I think it's going to be actually a spiritual healing. And so even going after that, I just feel like it's the opportunity that you have is actually for the healing. But if the healing comes, it's almost like, well, then it's done. But the fact that you're going back and you're getting to share Jesus with him every time, I feel like there's going to just be something there. You're going to have an opportunity just to actually just lead him right to Jesus, even more importantly than the healing he's going to have, because the healing's great, but that doesn't mean he gets to go to heaven. Like, he doesn't have a relationship with Jesus with healing, but it can lead to that. So I always say healing is great, but if they don't know Jesus, they're still going to hell, right? So I feel like healing a lot of times is an opportunity that just where they experience the love of Jesus. But I never want to stop there. And sometimes that's all they're willing to receive right then. But at least you plant that seed and just explain to them where this healing came from, what it's for, and what they can have in this relationship with Jesus. So,
I'm going to face everyone this time. Okay. Wow, there's a lot more people when I'm not looking at the ground. Okay, so I went with Zach and Olivia and Nathan to the exact same spot we went last week. And it wasn't as many people last time, but there's no numbers in the kingdom. I think we can get in the problem of the value system of the world is I got to get more than last time. I'm just touching people with the Lord, so I mean, that's all that matters. And I was walking. Where did we go? We went. So here's the rescue mission, and then we went northbound. And when we were driving there and parking our car, I saw a guy on the side of the street. So that was my target, and he was still there. So I went after him and actually sat down with him, and I just preached the gospel. Started just witnessing Jesus with him. I started praying over him, and after a while, like when I got into like the full gospel, he's like, I don't want this anymore. And he like kind of got a little bit like standoffish and didn't like kind of push me away. And I'm like, okay, that's still fine. And then I found this other people, the group that Olivia was talking about. I prayed over one of the guys that he was smoking a joint, and I was like, I gotta lay hands on him. Like, this is not good. Like, so I touched him, laid hands on him. God just started to minister to his heart, overwhelmed him. And then there's one guy who I really wanted to talk to, who was a part of the group as well. And I was talking and asking him questions. He wasn't responding in English. I didn't understand what he was saying. And I'm like, can I just pray with you? And he was like, okay. And he just gave me his hands, and I'm like, okay, let's lay hands on him. And I did. And like right away, the Lord revealed to me that he was actually like demon possessed. And I'm like, awesome, have more fun. And I lay hands on him, and I casted it out. And then he started to actually function properly. And it was like a completely change in his countenance. So it went from no language and mumbling to actually being able to tell us his name and speak. So that was really cool. So that was really fun. And then prayed over them, and that's the whole group that we're actually building relationships. And the guy that was really smart, I actually danced with him like last week. That was one testimony I didn't share. He was on the side of the street, and I was like, can I dance with you? Because he was dancing. He was like, sure. So then I danced off with him, and I prayed over him and laid hands on him. So we're kind of building connections out there, and it's really fun. So that's what we were doing. Exactly.
that's awesome. Yeah, relationship. We always say kingdom moves at the speed of relationships. So good. Do you want to share?
So after we went out to lunch, and we started going to B&B. my mom offered me a restaurant called BRB. So we went there many times. It was awesome and fun. Speaking of, we went to B&B, and there was a lot of people at the restaurant, and we had to get a 15-minute wait. And my mom said, during the 15-minute wait, let's head to the barn. So we hung out there, put our mask on,